Remember all that junk mail and the glossy catalogs that used to stuff your mailbox? And now, think about those ads on your phone that seem to know exactly what you've been thinking about. It's a huge shift, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how we got from there to here and what it all means for you. So, you've probably had this feeling. You know the one. You're just chatting with a friend about, I don't know, needing new running shoes, and then bam, suddenly ads for running shoes are absolutely everywhere you look online. It's a little creepy, isn't it? It makes you ask that question, is my phone actually listening to me? Well, here's the surprising part. It doesn't have to. The truth is, marketers have gotten so good at understanding our digital footprints, they don't even need to eavesdrop. And in this explainer, we're going to dive into how they do it. We're going to reveal the real secrets behind those ads. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the old school playbook, think mail and TV, then we'll hit the digital disruption that changed everything. After that, we'll get into social media and mobile marketing, peek behind the curtain at how marketers keep score, and finally, we'll tackle that huge question, personalization versus privacy.
All right, first up, let's hop in the time machine and rewind to the good old days before the internet, a time of overflowing mailboxes, shiny catalogs, and of course, those classic late-night TV commercials.
So what are we even talking about here? At its heart, direct marketing is really simple. It's when a company reaches out directly to you, an individual, with a very specific goal in mind. They want you to do something, visit a website, use a coupon, make a purchase. The key is that direct call to action. It's marketing that wants you to do something right now. And these were the classic tools of the trade. You had direct mail, which, get this, could hang around someone's house for an average of 17 days. Compare that to a digital ad you swipe past in half a second. And those catalogs from places like IKEA, you might think they're ancient history, but they are making a huge comeback. Response rates have jumped 170% in the last decade alone. Of course, we also had telemarketing, which got so out of hand we needed a national do not call registry, and who could forget those amazing late-night infomercials urging you to act now? But just as marketers were getting really good at all this, something came along that flipped the entire table. The internet. And it wasn't just a small change. It was a total revolution that completely rewrote the marketing playbook. And I mean, the difference was like night and day. Traditional marketing was kind of like using a megaphone to shout into a giant faceless crowd. It was expensive, you couldn't be sure who you were reaching, and it was totally one way. But digital marketing? That was like having a quiet one-on-one conversation. It was super targeted, way more affordable, and for the very first time, you could actually measure everything, every single click. This new era came with a whole new set of tools. All of a sudden, every single company needed a website. Some, like Toyota, used it as an online brochure. Others, like Amazon, turned it into the store itself. Then came email marketing, this incredibly personal way to reach people who actually asked to hear from you. We're talking over 4 billion daily users. And then you had content marketing, this brilliant idea of creating genuinely useful stuff, like blogs and videos, to draw people in instead of just shoving ads at them. But the digital disruption wasn't done, not by a long shot. The next big wave put all of that marketing power right into our pockets. Our phones became these constant companions, and marketing came right along with them. And here is why mobile became the name of the game. Just look at this. A whopping 90% of the time we spend on our phones is inside apps. Not on the web browser, but in apps. For a marketer, that's a giant flashing sign that says, if you want to reach people, you have to be in their apps. So let's do a quick tour of this social media world. You've got Facebook with its billions of users offering crazy precise targeting with tools like lookalike audiences. Then there's Instagram, the king of visual storytelling, things Spotify's Wrapped campaign. LinkedIn is the place for business-to-business networking. Pinterest is fascinating because almost all searches there are for ideas, not brands, which is a huge opening for advertisers. And finally, podcasts, where the real power is the incredible trust between a host and their listeners. Okay, so with all these platforms and methods, how on earth do marketers know what's actually working and what's just wasting money? Well, it all comes down to the data. Let's look at the scorecard they use to measure success. The number one goal, the holy grail for any marketer, is what's called a conversion. Now, this doesn't always mean a sale. A conversion is just that magic moment when a random visitor takes an action you want them to. It could be buying something, sure, but it could also be just signing up for a newsletter or creating an account. It's when a lurker becomes a participant. All right, next up is the click-through rate, or CTR. You can think of this as a grade for how good your ad is. Every time somebody sees your ad, that's called an impression. The CTR is just the percentage of those people who saw it and were interested enough to actually click on it. A high CTR tells you, hey, this ad is really working. And that brings us to the real bottom line, cost per acquisition, or CPA. This number answers the most important question of all. How much money do we have to spend to get that one new customer? You just take the total cost of your ad campaign and divide it by the number of new customers you got. The goal, always, is to get that number as low as you possibly can. And here's a perfect real-world example. The sports apparel company Fanatics spent $20,000 on a campaign. Sounds like a lot, right? But it brought them 32,000 conversions. You do the math, and their cost per acquisition was just 63 cents. For less than the price of a candy bar, they got a brand new customer. Now that is an efficient marketing campaign. But, and this is a really big but, all of this amazing targeting, all this data and efficiency, it leads us directly to the central conflict of modern marketing. It's this high-stakes balancing act between giving people perfectly personalized experiences and respecting their personal privacy. And listen, this isn't just some fringe concern. People are really worried about this. A recent survey from KPMG found that 86% of people are concerned about their data privacy. 86%. And 78% are specifically worried about just how much data is being collected on them. The public is definitely paying attention. You know, it's really easy to just point the finger at the big social media companies, but the reality is this issue is so much bigger. The vast majority of websites you visit, from news sites to online stores, use little tracking codes to follow you around the internet, building this incredibly detailed profile of who you are. In response, some companies are starting to push back. Apple has been a huge force here. They've introduced big features like app tracking transparency. That's the little pop-up that asks if you want to let an app track you. They also have iCloud Private Relay, which helps hide your online footprint, and Hide My Email, which lets you create fake, disposable email addresses. These are all pretty big steps toward giving control back to the user. And ultimately, that's what this all boils down to, right? We're being offered this world of incredible, personalized convenience, but the price of admission is our personal data. So as we all move forward, the question each of us has to ask ourselves is, what's more important to me? The convenience of a perfect ad or the privacy of my personal life? The answer to that question is going to shape the entire future of the internet. Thanks so much for joining me.